Welcome. This video has been created to address some of the questions you guys have had as far as using KompoZer goes. I'm going to go over a few of the tools in KompoZer as well as show you how to enter in the tags and get your web page to display. So if you look at the KompoZer window, I have it up on my screen right now. You'll notice that you have a toolbar at the top, and then you'll have an expanded menu right underneath it, as well as some menus underneath. What we're going to focus on for this particular video is, again, how to enter in the tags, how to save them, and get it to preview both inside of KompoZer and inside of your browser. So if you notice on the bottom, a couple of you have had the issues where the preview is not showing up. So I'm still working on that for you, but where you code is normal and HTML look a lot alike. Normal view will show you how your web page displays, but it'll give you a few tidbits of information on the side. HTML tags, it shows you what tags have been coded in side of your editor. In source, this is where you're actually going to code your HTML, and preview will show you again just exactly how it shows up inside of your browser window. Okay, so if we were going to code a simple page, I'm going to code a page with a simple header and a paragraph, and I'll show you how the tags should be keyed in. So you know HTML starts off with a doc type, okay, and within that doc type, okay, this just lets you know what type of document you're coding, and you are coding an HTML document. Okay, it doesn't matter how far or how many spaces you go down. The browser only recognizes the HTML or instructions you've keyed in, right? So I can space over, I can hit enter, and the browser wouldn't recognize anything unless I actually put in the correct HTML code. So I usually skip down one. Again, this is just for my purposes. You can do whatever you want once you get comfortable. But organization, indenting, making sure your code is organized is very important to editing HTML or any coding documents. So the next pair, if you remember that HTML comes in pairs for the most part, right? So if I have an open HTML, which means we're starting the actual HTML code. So if the doc type says, okay, this is the doc type statement that says we are starting an HTML file or a document, this will tell you that this is where your actual HTML begins. So if you have an open one, then you also should have a closing tag. Okay. Inside of those tags, now you're gonna nest codes. So it's more like if you think about a sandwich, you have two slices of bread, and then within those two slices of bread, you have your meat and you have your cheese. You have your meat and you have your cheese, and whatever other items you want to go inside of your sandwich. So the HTML open and HTML close are the pieces of bread, and then what is it that's necessary to create the entire sandwich? Well, the next set of codes you would type are going to be the head. And what you've noticed, if you've been reading through your notes, which you should have or within your book, they've talked about how in the header section there are certain items that could go like meta tags, and I'll talk more about those in another video. But this is just to get you started. So you have your meta tags. You also can link to certain like style sheets and things like that. And the header tag and style sheets are CSS, which we'll talk about later as well in the future. But you have your title tag that should also go within the head. And so if remember, we talked about in one of our discussions, maybe I think it was Thursday, inside of your title, okay, would go whatever words you want to show up either in your browser window or, in newer browsers, it would be the tabs. If you look at, like I was looking up something about basketball, and you see that all the page titles are on these tabs here, okay? So we're going to call this practice page. All right. So once you key in your words and you want to key them exactly, now here the browser does recognize. So anything in between the tags, the browser does recognize the spaces between words, but only one space between. And if I hit enter and actually put page, hit enter and put that on another line, it wouldn't do anything differently. Okay. Let's see. So once you have this set up, then after head would be your body, open, body, close. And this is, think about like a letter. They say what in a letter, they say what's the body of a letter. The body of a letter, the body of an email, that's the information that you want to actually show up, the meat, the most important part. Okay? So let's say if I said I want you to have a title on your page. Well, if you remember from your readings, headers can come in 6 sizes. And so if you think about writing a paper, you have your main title. So your main title will always be an H1. It goes from H1 to H6. H1 is the largest header. H6 is the smallest. And headers come pre-formatted, which means they're already bolded and a certain size. Okay? So we're going to call this H1. So if you remember, you got to do what? If you open a tag, you got to close it. Okay? Inside of H1, I'm going to say my practice page. And a lot of students, when I've said your page needs a title, and then I'll say add a title in your header, they confuse the two. Title on your page is what actually shows up on the physical page, and the title in the header section is what shows up in the blue bar or your tab. Okay? So I've typed H1, I typed my title, I've closed H1. So let's see what we have already. And this brings up one of the questions I had that I had gotten from a student. The question was, how do I save the name of my file? So, file, save as. And hopefully what you've done is created a folder. Like mine was called, I did under my documents, I called week 1 Webpages. So we're going to call this practice page. And a good rule of thumb is that all of your pages should be named and very specific names. So don't call it like page 2, page 3, unless they give it to you in directions. I usually give it specific names. So if this is my home page, I'd call it home. You want to use all lowercase and no spaces. So if I could do either practice page, okay, I'm going to click back on, or I could do practice underscore if I wanted to have a space page. All web pages have to have the .html. You'll notice that some may have .htm, and that's because historically when documents were first created and they had the document naming system was created, they had the 3 extension rule, and so you had your .doc, and I think Excel might have still been .xl, but the majority of them had three letter extensions. So that's where .htm came in. Well, now .html is more commonly used, but once you learn about servers and how to find a web host, then you'll have to figure out whether that web host asks for a .htm or allows you to use the .html. Okay, so practice underscore page .html is the name, and I'm just going to save. Now, KompoZer allows you, remember I said you can preview it, right? So you have your source code, and if you notice here, they've kind of converted it to the XHTML in KompoZer. The newer one is HTML5. So it's up to you. You can, convert it back to HTML5, or you can just leave it as is. Okay, remember I said these two show you kind of the same thing, what they look like in a browser, but it gives you some detailed information like font size on the left. This one tells you what tags have been used. So on this page, the body tag and H1 has been used. Okay, your source code is the actual tags you typed, and preview is what it will look like on the page. Notice under title, you have the practice page. Remember we keyed that under title. Okay, right here. And then notice you had my practice page, which if you go back to HTML tags, it tells you it was an H1 inside of the body. So I can check exactly what I had. H1 inside of the body, my practice page. Okay. So another way to view it is you can always go to the folder um, where you saved your work. Okay. And you can double click on it and then get it to pull up. And my computer's moving very, very slowly. But once it does pull up, you should be able to see that it looks very similar to this, except it's inside of the browser instead of just a window in the KompoZer program. See? There you go. Title in the tab and my practice page. So I'm going to do a couple other things in here just so you can figure out how. The best, whenever I'm working, usually I leave my browser up, but if I'm in a program like Komodo Edit or KompoZer, it allows me to preview inside of the program, so I can quickly save and refresh and see my updates, right? So let's say if I want to go into my source code, and remember, everything you key that should show up on your page should go before you close your body. Okay, I can go in and add something else like paragraph tag. Remember, that creates paragraphs for you, so it's going to be double spaced between each different paragraph, and within every paragraph is still single space. Okay, so if I say today is Sunday, it was an awesome day. Okay, and then I'm going to close the paragraph. All right, and now within the program, it automatically saves it, and I can see what was saved here. If I did in my browser, I'd have to first save, and if you don't know a keyboard shortcut, Control S automatically saves, or I can just do File and Save, but now it's grayed out because I've already saved it. And then go into my browser and then hit F5 or use one of the menu options to refresh. Okay. And one quick thing I want to point out is, remember I said that it only recognizes commands. So even if I hit enter as many times as I want, the enters aren't reflected on the code because I haven't given the browser any instructions. You have to remember that, remember I said coding is like speaking a foreign language. The browser can only translate what you tell it to translate. So it doesn't understand like all this extra stuff like the spaces or the enters. You have to tell it a space should go here, an enter should go there, and so on. Alright, so again, it doesn't do anything. It just recognizes that there should be two sentences there. Okay. A couple other things I want to point out when you're doing your code is images. So for images, when you're coding those in, two things have to happen. Either you can do an image by, and I think your code talks about this, either you could do an image by saving it to the same folder where your document is, or you can link to an image. So let's say let's do I have loved Civil War, Marvel, because no other words popping into my head right now. So you should have written something about you should have read something about copyright. So you don't really ever take images off the web unless they are copyright free, which means they're public domain. You can use them as many times as you want. You don't have to pay for them. They want to try to sue you, that sort of thing. Or you ask for permission, or you pay for the image in order to use it. And they have specifications as to how many times you can use it and where you can use it. Or you can create your own images. But I'm going to use this just as an example to show you, for instructional purposes only, just to show you how you would link to an image that's on the web. Okay, so let's say if I'm using this Marvel image, this is one of my favorite parts of the movie, so I'm going to use this. So I could right click on the image and go to copy image address. Okay, and now it's been copied to the clipboard. And I'm going to go inside of my code, not here, and I could paste. Control V is the keyboard shortcut, or you could have went to edit and then paste, but again it's grayed out because I used the shortcut, and then / bracket. Okay, if you've done it correctly, the image will now show up in your code. I'm going to Control S save. So I'm going to preview it inside of the actual browser window itself. And you see this image was extremely large. So they've also shown you some things in the book as far as you go in attributes or what they're called. So if image is the HTML tag, src is the actual attributes, and v, the value, is inside of quotation marks. So I always tell my students, I don't know if this acronym will actually make sense, but it's called TAV. Tag attribute equals value. Okay, so I'm going to add another attribute value. I'm going to do height. And because of aspect ratio, which means that if I put in the height, the width will adjust. Or if I put in the width, the height will adjust. I'll just do a height. I'm going to say 300. And now you see the image is adjusted, right? And also, because a lot of people who actually view the web don't actually they may have disabilities. I don't want to say they don't actually have anything. They may have disabilities. So federal websites have to be in compliance, which means that all their images have to have an alternative text coded into their codes or the HTML that will take the place of that image. So if the screen reader were reading it and it comes upon an image, it reads that actual caption or the alternative text. Or if you think about, how images, or some people's computer may have slow connection, or the image may not show up, or if the image is taken off the site and is no longer in the location, maybe somehow got deleted off of the server, then you would need your alternative text. So alt equals, and then you would type what you wanted the browser, what you wanted the screen reader to show or your browser to show if the image did not show up. And then title is just a caption. Okay, so I could put this, or I could have some other text. I don't know why I call it Civil Bar, because that's not what I meant. Civil War banner. Okay, so if I preview this, and now if I move my mouse over it, you see it has a title on it. And I can't really demonstrate the alternative text unless, for whatever reason the image didn't show up. I'll show you this. So let's say if I didn't, if I typed in something wrong and the image didn't show up, then you have the alternative text here that shows you what should have shown up had it been correct. Okay, and I want to edit, undo, so I can. Okay, did I fix it? Probably not. And then I don't even know what I typed. So I think it was an L right here. Oh, good guess. Okay, so that's how, in a nutshell, you would actually use KompoZer. Hopefully that'll help you get started and to give you a point of reference to start. I know these are not all the tags you've used, nor is it all the things that you've learned throughout those pages. But if you're still stuck, this video should help. If you have decided to use Komodo Edit instead of KompoZer, the only difference is that when you're starting Komodo Edit, you go New File, type in your codes the exact same way. All works the same. And I'm going to type something very quick on this. I might want to type it inside of the bracket. And let's see, I'm going to go in the body. And remember, most tags, the majority of them come in pairs. So it should be easy to remember. HTML, open, close, head, open, head, close. All of the head stuff comes before the body. Title, open, title, close, body, open, body, close. Okay, so in the body, if I wanted to do an H1, and then I'm going to do H1 close. And let's see if I wanted to, I could do a paragraph. Okay, so I'm just typing something. And then if I were going to do an image, it still works the same exact way. I just want to show you that, remember again, you wouldn't do this unless it was a free image. Okay, and we're going to say copy image address. Again, I can right click and paste or control V, and that's a pretty long URL. Somewhere in the menu, and they've changed a few things since I've done this, but there is an option to wrap your text. Okay, yeah, so it's under view and go to word wrap. Okay, so you can see how large. That's a huge, like I almost would save that image if I were going to use it, because that's a lot of unnecessary coding there. But just for the purposes of what we're doing, I'll keep it there. That's one way for the image to show up. Remember, I told you other ways are to save it actually in your folder. Okay, and then pull it up that way. So I can show you that way. So again, if this were an image that was yours, or free, you could right click, save image as, under an images folder. Inside of the folder, see, you have your main folder, week 1 web pages, have a folder called images. I'm going to call it DC Comics. I don't know why I keep wanting to add an extra in. Okay, and you saw there was a JPEG. So I'm going to go inside of my code, and instead of typing that long URL, I'm just going to say it's inside of the images folder, DC Comics. It was a JPEG. Okay, and remember, you should have an alt, which is DC Comics. I'm just typing. I'll keep. One of these days, I'll figure out that comics has only one M. I don't know why I keep making that mistake. And title and DC Comics. I think I want to spell something else. And then, so you have all your code here. And then I can click the icon that's for save file. And since it's never been saved before, it'll prompt you to say, okay, where do you want to save this? I'm going to save it inside of my week or whatever folder you've created. I'm going to call this DC Comics, lowercase, dot. Remember what the extension should be. If you said HTML, you are right. Click save. And so Komodo Edit has a couple of ways you can preview. So you can view in the browser. So if you know, well, let me back up a little bit. Notice that now you have color-coded syntax. And you notice it says HTML because we say it as HTML document. It recognizes that's the code we're using. And it's going to actually color code the tags for us. Okay. What this does, if you click on view, I can do a browser preview, or I can view it inside of Komodo Edit. So I'm going to do view, browser preview, and then it'll prompt me to make sure I've saved it. I'm going to click preview. This is going to be inside of Komodo Edit first, okay? So same thing. My picture didn't show up. If it didn't, I can always go back and check, okay, what did I do wrong? So if my folder, I saved it here, DC Comics. My folder is called Images. And my picture, sometimes it wants you to say JPEG and not just JPG. So I'll say add the E in here. And did it show up that time? No, so I'd have to go in and find what my error is. See if I have a minute. And then there are times when, if an image, some images, it won't allow you to use those images. So, if I had the time, I would go back and troubleshoot some more. DC, CD, C, make sure I spell them all the same. Yeah, so I would probably need to go in and choose another image if it were free, and that may be one. It might be blocked, and I'm not able to use that image. But that's one way to do it. And then once you save it again, you can either preview it inside of this window, or click on the menu and view it inside of your browser, not just inside of the screen. Okay. The other way is to go find the folder. Again, under Documents, one folder, DC Comics, and this shows up when there's an error with your image. So it could be something's wrong with the file you're trying to use, it's not in the location you said it should be in, or there's a typo in the spelling, and they both need to match. Okay, maybe you left off the file extension. Whenever you insert or embed another document into the HTML, the file extension or file type extension should be included, whether that's .jpg or .doc, .ppt, another .html, or whatsoever. Okay, I hope this gives you a little bit better understanding on how to get started with the coding. Again, if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. I want everyone to be in a position where they feel strong enough to get started or finish up with week 1's activities and begin week 2 shortly. Okay, good luck, and continue to push yourselves to learn more each and every day.